methodical. If you use a digital consultation tool, it will say you can vote up or you can vote down, or maybe you can vote really up and vote really down, but still fundamentally you're casting a vote. And there's a thing called liquid democracy you might have come across. Liquid democracy is designed to think, for example, I don't know anything about open data, or at least nothing I would want to make a big commitment on, but Michelle in my team knows loads about open data. So in liquid democracy, I would give Michelle my vote on open data, and she could cast two votes, one with her knowledge of open data and one with me because I trust her on open data. And all of that stuff kind of works its way through the system, so eventually the experts, in the theory, cast the votes that mean that everyone's taking really good decisions. The problem is that anyone who's ever worked in local government at all for more than about 3 seconds knows that votes don't matter. The voting is the least important part of any local government decision-making process, because if you've done your job as an officer or a politician, by the time the vote happens, everything's already decided. Because the real power in local politics is in the conversations that happen in the hallways, and in the fact that the guy that is asking you for your vote was the person who has been round the neighbourhood for the last 6 months building your support, or you want something off him or her, and all of those sorts of networks of relationships are what real local decision-making is. So when I talk about local being not local and decisions not being decisions, I don't mean we can all give up and go home and just close the door, shutter the town hall and just forget about it. I'm saying that actually we need to have a much more complicated understanding, a much more complex understanding of what democracy is really about. And I think that it's really important that we do this today. And it's really important that we do this now. Because all of a sudden, some of these things that we thought of a few years ago as kind of, good, important, fun stuff to do, have suddenly become life and death issues. And I don't think that we're going to be able to undertake the reinvention that democracy needs unless we start at local level. Now, I want to give you a really cast-iron piece of advice that I guarantee will make your life happier. Never come to an election night party at my house. Because I've had a few election night parties in recent years, and as someone of broadly liberal pro-European internationalist views, they've not gone very well for me. So they start out with everyone having a nice drink, and it's great, and then about 1 o'clock the doubts start to creep in, and people think, this isn't going very well, but I'm sure we can pull it back. And then by about 4 o'clock in the morning, they're stumbling out into the streets of Brighton looking like they've just escaped from a house fire. Now, the reason I think that all of these things have been happening is not because my election night parties are uniquely bad and they've shifted the events of world politics, but actually that all of the stuff that we've been talking about for years has finally come to pass. This is the moment where you've been looking at that little mark in the ceiling and you think there's definitely something wrong with the plumbing upstairs. There's definitely something wrong. I really should look at the plumbing upstairs. There's definitely something wrong with it. And then all of a sudden we have a whole bathtub landing on our head. And part of the challenge of that is that all of these things look like huge world-shaping events because they are. And it feels like local government and all of the things that we do, and Huddersfield and the shops at the end of the street are just like corks bobbing around on the ocean, dragged by the currents of all of these great world-shaping events. And on one level that's true, because there's nothing that you can do in Kirklees today to stop Donald Trump be president, or to stop him being a bad president. But at the same time, in Kirklees here today, you can have the sorts of conversations that start the reform that people can see, that make them believe that democracy is not something that just happens in a distant place where no one ever gets listened to. And more importantly, you can do it at a level that enables them to talk up to national and to European and to international level. Because one of the things that's really fundamental to us in DEMSOC is that democracy has to be wherever power is. And power is at international level and power is at European level. And even after we've left the European Union, power will still be at international level and European level. So we have to think about ways that we can get democracy into those levels. And trust me, I live in Brussels now since September, and there's no more power to control the European Union in Brussels than there is here in Kirklees. There's probably less, because everything that happens there is conditioned by what the MEPs and the parliamentarians and the researchers hear from all over the continent. So we can't fix Brussels in Brussels, and we can't fix London in London. We can fix Kirklees in Kirklees, and we can fix London and Brussels and Washington in Kirklees as well. And so I would encourage you, when you're going out and spending your afternoon thinking in workshops, and more importantly on Monday morning when you go back reinvigorated by the conversations you've had here today, not just to think about local government as a level where things happen in a particular machinery, but to think about local government as the place where people can be made to fall in love with politics again, and where they can be educated to understand that the sorts of things that they're able to do right here can be passed up into government. And the sorts of initiatives that Notwestminster are the sorts of initiatives we need, things that bring together the people who are making those experiments happen, and think about how they can join them up. And we need a much bigger effort, and this is something that I've been talking about in all sorts of forums, a much bigger effort to connect up the innovators, and a much bigger effort to not reinvent the wheel, and to find the big research goals that we have that will enable people to make those changes flow right from the bottom, from the streets, from the tiny neighbourhoods that they think are their places, right the way up to the international decisions that are shaping their world. I'm really delighted to be here, and I hope the afternoon goes really well. Thanks very much.